Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and we're looking at another science fiction movie that I love quite a lot. Although this is the latest entry in that particular franchise, this is at least chronologically it's supposed to be the second, and I'm talking about Alien Covenant, right? So just like Prometheus, I love Alien Covenant quite a lot. I think I like this movie more than the first one. I know this movie didn't do well at the box office, but I absolutely love and adore this movie. I love the Alien franchise. This is probably my favorite movie in this series. Yes, I know, controversial, but I absolutely love this movie. So let's take a look at the movie as such. Released in 2017. Once again, directed and produced by Ridley Scott. It stars a different version of the android. Instead of David, we have Walter, but we also get David later. So we get Michael Fassbender with a different crew. This is Kathleen Waterston. I believe her dad is a famous TV show actor. I can't really remember. I think his name is Walter. Uh, Walter, what is her name? Something like that. I don't really remember. Billy Crudup, Danny McBride, Damien Bichir. I don't know how you pronounce that name. You also have Carmen Ejogo, who I absolutely love. She's got a big crush on her. Jussie Smollett, the controversial Jussie Smollett. We'll not talk about that. Callie Henderson, who is pretty cute. Amy Selmitz, Nathaniel Dean, and anybody else? No, that's about it. All right. So, I mean, nobody else of any major importance. Oh yeah, there is this actress called Tess. I think her character's death really shook me a little bit. Tess Haubrich. And this is set supposed to be, I think it's 10 years after the events of 11 years after the Prometheus expedition, the events in the movie Prometheus. This is another crew on a ship known as the Covenant. It's a colonization ship. Sorry. Another the crew, which, okay, this is one of the major flaws that people kind of pointed out. A lot of them are couples, but how that was set up, we don't know. Anyway, forget about that. So they got, other than the crew who are in stasis, you also have 2,000 other followers who are in stasis. Plus, they also have 1,140 human embryos in cold storage. So it's the plan to actually colonize a planet. So they have a destination in mind. It's taking them a long time to reach there, which is why they're in stasis. But the crew, the ship has got, and it's a whaling industry, what do you call it, ship. So you've got Walter, who has got an American accent in this movie, and he resembles David, of course, because he's played by Michael Fassbender. However, he is a very different version of the android. He doesn't really have the emotional attachments that was seemingly to be a flaw to the company. So he doesn't have the problems that David has. And you do see in the beginning of the movie Peter Wayland addressing David after he is initially I would say activated, and that actually does show the fact that David considers himself to be superior to humans, because even his creator, which is his father, so to speak, Peter Wayland, will eventually grow old and die. David won't. So anyway, that's kind of like a very telling incident. So what happens is there is a solar flare and the ship gets damaged a little bit. Some of the passengers need to get out of their stasis. Some of the crew have to get out of the stasis. One, which is in, the captain is in it, played by, of all people, and he doesn't even show up in the rest of the movie. You just got the little scene with him. Played by James Franco. He gets killed immediately in a fire that's in the stasis pod. His wife is played by Kathleen Waterston, who plays Daniels. And so now that the captain is dead, Daniels is the third in command. So the second in command is what's his name now? Oram, Christopher Oram, played by Billy Crudup. So he takes over. However, the crew doesn't really see him, and apparently the company also doesn't see him as. Um, they don't trust him too much because he is the only one who is a religious person in that group, while everybody else is considered to be atheist. And so I don't know. That's a point that's there in the future. I have hope for the future. um, so he takes over, but he rubs the people a little bit because he tells them to start working on repairs immediately. However, they wanted to have a sending off for their captain, so some of them, including Daniels, they take a little shot of some whiskey, and they send the captain's body out into space, giving a proper send off. They, while repairing the ship, one of them, who is played by Daniel, his name is Tennessee. He gets a distant signal, kind of like very garbled, but when they boost it, they're able to make out that it's a human lady who is singing "Country Roads Take Me Home," the song by John Denver. So they decide to investigate. When they find out that there's a planet that's even better suited for human life than the one that they're actually going to, they don't know how come they missed it. It's a planet, much closer to where their destination is. Nobody wants to get into the cryosleep pods. So against Daniel's better judgment, the Captain Oram decides to land there, and things go bad. Well, a couple of them get infected. The chestbusters come out of them, so there are different variations of it, and some of them get killed. And then David comes in. David says he's there to help them. Oh yeah, there's a scene where Walter's hands gets chopped off by one of the aliens that come out of the thing as well. So you don't get to see a face hugger at this particular point, but it's the chestbuster things that come out, and they start growing very quickly. So David takes them to some kind of a building, and he takes them to a lot of the engineers who have been completely destroyed, charred, and all that stuff. And he tells them that so they did discover the ship that he and Elizabeth Shaw were in, and he says that Elizabeth Shaw died in the crash, and accidentally the black goo fell on the planet, and that's how all these people died, all the engineers died. One thing to note is this is not the engineers' home planet. This is another planet that they just happen to be on. And he tells them the story. However, it is David who's been, experimenting with first Elizabeth Shaw, and then having the creatures come out. He's been trying different variations of it, and the almost humanoid. You can't really call it humanoid, I guess, but the version that comes out of humans is the one that he likes the best, and they're the most dangerous as well. Several of them get killed as they try to escape from them, and discovers that David is the one. David is pretty villainous and stuff. So he and Walter have a showdown, but he seems to get the better of Walter. Walter reactivates himself and comes and fights against this guy, and we don't know who actually wins, but of course it is very easy to tell that it is David who actually wins, because they cut off the point when he's reaching for a knife, and then you don't really see what happens, and he pretends to be cuts off his wrist, and pretends to be a Walter, even changes his accent, and Tennessee comes to rescue them. The security officer, I think his name is Dan and Daniels are the only ones who actually survive from the planet. Everybody else was killed by the aliens, including Oram, who is finally getting the face hugger, and then the alien thing comes out of him. So everybody is killed except for these two, and Oram comes and saves them. There's a couple of the another pair who's on the main ship, and what happens is the creature comes out and jumps onto the smaller ship that they're trying to escape from, and Daniels goes and gets the better of him. When we go back upstairs, we find that there is another one that has it was incubating inside of Dan, the security head, and it bursts out and kills. I mean, of course, he dies, and then he kills the couple that are inside, Jussie Smollett and Callie Hernandez. Kills them while they are making out in the shower. Of course, you have to have one of those scenes. And then between Walter at the controls, or David as Walter in the controls, Tennessee and Daniels, they manage to get the better of the alien, chucks it out into space. Seems to be that they are the only three survivors, other than the ones that are already in stasis, the colonies, and the embryos. Walter initially, Tennessee goes into stasis, and then it's finally Daniel's turn, and then there is a little slip up, and she realizes that this is not Walter; it's actually David. But it's too late. She's already under the effects of the sleep part in the cryo bed, and he tells her, "Be quiet. Don't let the bed bugs bite." And then he basically now has control of the ship. He pukes out two alien embryos, in these small crystal forms, and puts them in stasis along with the human embryos. And they're going to the planet where they originally were heading for. And I guess he is now free to do his experiments on the remaining humans. And he asks the computer to play the song, the composition, Entry of the Gods into Valhalla from, I forgot who the composer is. Anyway, that's not important, but that's a very good piece. And that's why it's a movie. So even though there's got a lot of flaws in it, I absolutely love the movie. There's a little bit of homoeroticism symbolization happening there, especially the scene between. Alien is basically all about that. It's basically about losing control, being raped, both men and women, and especially for males, the feeling of being penetrated by a phallic symbol, like the way that the chest busters are, the face huggers are, is very, very evident. And but there's a scene in which you can see it's kind of like the attempted seduction of Walter by David, and there's even a little funny meme about that when he says he's teaching him how to play the flute, and he says, "You blow, I'll do the fingering," and there's a lot of snickering happening when that line was actually said. I found it really funny as well. How much of an intentional joke that was in between, we don't know, but I'm guessing it was intentional, because how could you possibly miss that? Anyway, so yeah, I love the alien creatures in it. I love I wanted to actually see more of the engineers, but you don't get to see. There is hope, and I think it's being in production. The plan is to have the third movie being released. I do not know when, but it is in development, I guess. And Ridley Scott has said it's only going to be one, because this movie didn't make as much money, so he's only getting the chance to finish out the storyline with the third movie, and then they're going to possibly do a reboot of the Alien franchise. I think that's basically about it. There is a sequel. He initially was planning to do 2 sequels to Prometheus, and then he said I could possibly have 4 or 5 movies done, but because this one, they would not be 2, there would only be one more movie left, and he didn't actually want to leave it completely alone. He wanted it to be ongoing, but apparently that's not going to happen. So we're not really sure. It looks like 21st Century Fox has been bought up by Disney, so they might do a complete reboot of the Alien franchise. We don't know. Anyway, I hope. As late as September of 2020, Ridley Scott did confirm that the movie was in development. So I'm really looking forward to it. Love Ridley Scott's movie, so what can I say? I give this movie an 8.5 out of 10. I really, really enjoyed this movie, just like I did Prometheus as well. So thank you guys. Good night.